Okay. Welcome in, everybody. How's it going? Today we are working on day 4 of Try Hack Me's Advent of Cyber. Welcome to Learn to Defend Cyber. My name is Joseph. I do not have everything quite set up yet, so let's go ahead and get that done. Go here. We should be able to get everything spun up over here. Looks like the machine was still initializing. I tried to get it done a little early so we could jump right into it, but sometimes you gotta wait. Oh, looks like we're working on a Windows machine today. Awesome. First and foremost, though, how's everybody doing today? I know we got some people in chat already. Okay. It's already Wednesday. Can't believe it. We're almost hitting the tail end of week 1. Let's go ahead and get this in a full screen here so we don't have to squint. Close this out. So we have Atomic Red Team today. Atomic Red Team's a pretty good, pretty cool tool. I've used it a couple times. The way I like to use it is I'll take Atomic Red Team and I will say I have, say I have like a Splunk server set up. I will go ahead and run Atomic Red Team, which simulates attacks on a machine, and see what logs come up, what I'm collecting, see if anything's making any kind of noise, what I can see happen that show me in the future that what looks like a malicious attack. So there's a few different ways you can use Atomic Red Team. I know people that use it for detection engineering. You know, they'll run a couple example attacks and see if they get any detections to their webhooks or whatever else they're using to generate detections. And I don't know how we're going to be using it today quite yet. How's it going, Rhonda? Great to see you. Alright, so Sockmas is approaching in the midnight. And the town of Wareville started preparations for the grand event. Glitch, a quiet, talented security Sockmas engineer, had a hunch that these year's celebrations would be different. With looming threats, he decided to revamp the town's security defenses. Glitch began to fortify the town's security defenses quietly and meticulously. He started by implementing a protective firewall, patching vulnerabilities, and accessing endpoints to patch for security vulnerabilities. As he worked tirelessly, he left breadcrumbs, small traces of his activities. I can't read today, apparently. Unaware of Glitch's good intentions, the SOC team spotted anomalies, logs showing admin access, escalation of privileges, patch systems behaving differently, and security tools triggering alerts. The SOC team misinterpreted the system's modifications as a sign of an insider threat or rogue attacker and decided to launch an investigation using the Atomic Red Team framework. Now, I don't know how you would use Atomic Red Team to investigate anything, but let's see what they're going to say here. Learn how to identify malicious techniques using the MITRE ATT&CK framework. That's a pretty good one. MITRE ATT&CK maps different techniques to stages of the attack life cycle. We can bring it up here. We're gonna MITRE ATT&CK. This is all of this is MITRE ATT&CK. It's quite a bit to take in, but we can break it down here. We have the different stages. If you look up at the process called the cyber attack kill chain or cyber attack life cycle, anything like that, you would get Lockheed Martin's cyber kill chain most of the time. That's the pretty popular one. But you have reconnaissance, resource development, initial access, execution, persistence, privilege escalation, defense evasion, credential access, discovery, lateral movement, collection, command and control, exfiltration, and impact. It's a lot. There's a lot of things here. This big honking graph is a lot to take in, and you can spend some time reading what goes on here, but it's not really, it doesn't really go into how different things are done so much as what they are. So we clicked on the first one here, active scanning IP blocks. Adversaries may scan IP blocks to gather information that can be used during targeting. public IP addresses may be allocated to organization by block. So you would have, say, your public IP was 100.100.100.100 through 105. That would be a block of IPs that is assigned to your organization. They may scan IP blocks in order to gather victim network information, such as IP addresses that are actively in use, as well as detailed information about hosts. This is called footprinting or fingerprinting, where you go and you scan devices, and maybe you'll try and grab some banners to figure out what it is that you are actively scanning. Oh, and we see it goes to more nuanced scans that reveal host software versions via software banners and other network artifacts. So just as you have the technique ID of your. This is the specific ID of active scanning IP blocks ID T1595.001, and then you have subtechnique of T1595. So if we go back, you'll see that active scanning is controlled T1595, and then you have your subtechniques, which are 001, 002, and 003. There are plenty of resources on how to learn the MITRE ATT&CK framework and how you can use it. It's usually used... I see it used in a few different ways. You can use it to map and try and figure out who threat actors are, depending on what they're doing. It's not the most reliable for that, but it's definitely used for that. You can also use it to interfere, or like to infer what stage in the life cycle an attack that you're experiencing may be in. So for instance, if you're getting scanned and you can tell that these scans are actually malicious, you're in the reconnaissance phase. You can see what's going on, and you might be able to guess from there what goes next using this beautiful graph. And it's not linear in any manner. You can go from reconnaissance straight to execution. It doesn't necessarily have to do any kind of resource development or initial access. If there's some big vulnerability that allows you to execute code, you can just skip around. We got Jeff Tome, what's going on? Mariana Albright, how's it going? I'd love to see you here. Chris, welcome, welcome. Awesome, glad y'all are here. So let's go ahead. They want to copy from my clipboard, no big deal. And we're going to learn about Atomic Red Team for attack simulation and how to create alerts and detection rules. Awesome. Good stuff. I'm hoping... So Advent of Cyber tries not to get too nitty-gritty. They may have a dedicated day to Yara and Sigma rules. I hope so. I would love to see a dedicated day to Yara and Sigma rules. Not only is it something I enjoy working with, it's something that I definitely want to learn more. So we already started the machine, and we are already logged in. Yep. We could have connected with RDP, but I'm not going to do that because we already have it here. We got some Dan. What's going on? Welcome. I love watching these detailed breakdowns. Thank you. I try to, I'm trying to fill in some of the gaps that we may not get in here, but I haven't read it yet, so I don't know what they're going to say yet. So we're going to talk about detection gaps. While it might be the utopian dream of every blue teamer, we will rarely be able to detect every attack or step in the attack kill chain. Very true. This is a reality that all blue teamers face. There are gaps in their detections, but worry not, these gaps do not have to be the size of black holes. There are things we can do to make these gaps smaller. Okay? Detection gaps are usually caused by one or two things. Security is a cat and mouse game. As we detect more threat actors, we'll find sneakier ways. Very true. But in the same sense, as they find sneakier ways, we're going to find ways to detect it, right? So it's constant battle. We're going back and forth. Red teamers, hackers, black hats, whatever, whoever, they're going to find craftier and craftier ways to get into things, and we're going to have to think of craftier and craftier ways to catch them. And the line between anomalous and expected behavior is often very fine, sometimes even has a significant overlap. Let's see what they say about this. For example, let's say a company based in the US, we expect to see almost all of our logins come from IP addresses in the US. One day we get a logon event from the European Union, which would be an anomaly. However, it could also be our CEO traveling for business. This is an example where normal and malicious behavior intertwine. Yeah, that's definitely true. That's not necessarily a gap in detection so much as it would be that our detection came up, but it was a false positive. We talked a little bit about false positives yesterday, so if you're interested in that, definitely go back and look at that video. The detection going off because it was unexpected behavior, it's perfectly fine. The detection's doing what it's supposed to do. It's just that it's not malicious in this case. Fine. Cyber attacks and the kill chain. Initial recon, initial compromise, establish foothold, escalate privileges, move laterally. And as you can see, it's kind of circular here, cyclical, and then you can complete your mission. So you have Lockheed Martin's kill chain. This is the example I was always taught. Let me see if I can get this a little bit bigger. Probably on Lockheed's site. So you have the different phases here. They do a very linear action. You can see they go reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control actions on objective. Tells you about the different steps. And I like this one a little bit more because it does show that it's not always linear. It does have a little bit of a cyclical thing. You know, you don't just hit one device and stop. That's not where you win. You're going to want to try and get to the crown jewels. They do have a Yara and Sigma room. Yes, they do. I know they do. I'm hoping they have one in Advent of Cyber. Okay. As a blue teamer, it would be our dream to prevent all attacks at the start of the kill chain. That would be nice. But sometimes you won't detect anything going on until they're near action on an action on objectives, which is towards the end. So when they start the reconnaissance, we already stopped them dead in the tracks. Usually not. There's so much noise in the day-to-day that reconnaissance can blend right on in if they're being stealthy. Goals shift slightly. If we're unable to detect and prevent threat actors at one phase, the goal becomes to perform detections across the entire kill chain. Correct. Goal is to ensure we can detect the threat actor before the very last phase of goal execution. Yeah, we would love to be able to detect them before the bomb actually goes off, whatever that may be. MITRE ATT&CK. So we kind of talked about this a little bit. Framework provides a navigator tool where the TTPs can be looked at. Yeah. So if you want, for instance, let's look at Akira ransomware. You'll see the different names. Akira is a ransomware variant. This is a threat actor group, pretty popular, very, very active right now as of recording in 2024. You can see different techniques they use. So they have account access removal. They have archived collected data via utilities. So you see they even get specific with WinRAR here. Data encrypted for impact. They are a ransomware threat actor, so they're going to encrypt data. They grab data from SharePoint. They'll abuse SharePoint. That's what this sub-technique is of 1213. So you can see the way they usually name these is pretty handy. You have data from information repositories and then colon SharePoint. So this is the main technique, data from information repositories, and then this little .002 is your sub technique of SharePoint. And then you have all their other different techniques and some of their softwares that they are known to use and what they do with those softwares. That's another way you can use MITRE. Now, it's not going to give you maybe the most up-to-date information because it is a free resource. Usually, if you want hashes or like cutting-edge information, you're going to need a CTI team, some form of CTI platform or feed that you're paying into to get that kind of information. Yep, defense in depth. Absolutely, Dan. Absolutely. Framework primarily discusses these TTPs in a theoretical manner. Even if we know we have a gap for a specific TTP, we really don't know how to test the gap or close it down. This is where Atomic Red Team comes in. Yes, so Atomic Red Team, they have a library of test cases that are mapped to different parts in the attack framework, as it states here. And what we can do is we can use Atomic Red Team to say, hey, are we detecting command and scripting interpreter actions through PowerShell? Well, I don't know. Let's use Atomic Red Team and see if we're getting it. But let's see what they want us to use. McSkitty suspects that the supposed attacker uses the miter attack technique T1566001 spearfishing with an attachment. Let's recreate the attack emulation performed by the supposed attacker and look for artifacts created. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead. It says it wants us to open up PowerShell. We'll go ahead and open up PowerShell as an administrator. Get our shell up. Okay. And what does it want us to do? It wants us to look at the man page or the get help page for Atomic Red Team. It is Invoke Atomic. Yeah, Invoke Atomic test. So here we have different flags that we can set. Atomic technique string, show details. This is so show details would show details on whatever it is, what string you decide for the atomic test. Show details brief is the same thing, but it's not as verbose. Test numbers. I think each control has different test numbers that you can run. Test GUID, so any kind of identifier string like a GUID. A path to the folder, wherever it's stashed. And then you have all your other flags. And we have some, and there we go. They break down some of the important ones for us. So atomic technique, this is defining what technique you want to emulate. Use the complete technique name or the TX value. This can be omitted. Okay. Show details, shows details. Obviously, we talked about show details brief. Check prereqs, that's a very important one. If you don't have all of the prerequisites for testing whatever control you need, you may need to install some more software for it to be exploited by this module. Test names show you the tests. Test GUIDs, I explained that. It's the identifier numbers, test numbers. Yep. And then cleanup. Always clean up when you're done. You want to put away your toys when you're done playing. You don't want to leave random bits of malware just sitting on your computer. No, unfortunately, Dan, you're not a mod, which I can fix that, probably. I'll fix that after this stream. But you're not a mod, which means that links get, they're going to get taken by YouTube. YouTube's not big on anybody posting links in chat. You have to be a moderator of the channel or the owner of the channel to post links. So we'll take a look at that afterwards. Our first command. So we want to know more exactly what happens when we test this technique. To get this information, we must include the name of the technique we want information about and show details. So we're going to go ahead and run that command. No point in us typing ourselves when they give it to us. And we have all the different information populated. Is that big enough? Are y'all able to see that well? Just double click on his name and click standard mod. Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can do that. There. Down for just me or everyone? What do you mean? What do you mean? Okay. Don't scare me like that, Chris. Alright. Let me move the PowerShell a little bit. See if we can... No? Not gonna let us? Not today? Not today. Okay, that's fine. I can blow it up a little more. We'll go ahead and make it full screen for sake of readability. Make this a little bigger. Size, awesome. Make that a little bit bigger for us. Alright. So we have the different information about this test technique for T156601, which we identified earlier to be spearfishing. The test name, right here, download macro-enabled phishing attachments. This is the first test. This is its GUID, which stands for Global Identifier. I forget what the U stands for. Global Unique Identifier. That's what it stands for. Okay. And then it gives a short description of what it's going to do. Downloads a document. Downloads an XLSM, which I can't think of any valid reasons of why you would need macro-enabled documents like an XLSM in your environment. I want to say that they are even disabled by default at this point, but if you do allow them, you want to be very, very vigilant about which ones you're allowing. I can't think of any legitimate reasons why you would use them off the top of my head. I'm sure there are plenty out there, but most environments you should have macro-enabled documents and extensions. Just, you don't need those. Executes via PowerShell. Does not require any kind of elevation. This is the URLs that it's going to visit. Oh, this is the full command. Okay, so this is defining the URLs that it's going to call to, invoke web request to those URLs, and then it's going to take the out file and throw it into our environment in the temp directory and give us our phishing macro document and then a .text. And then when we clean up, this is the cleanup commands. And then this is what would happen. We begin the test with test 2. Word spawn a command shell using an IP address. Okay, and this is for the second one. We have a little bit more of a complex command here. This is using .NET over TLS 1.2, which is an earlier version of TLS. I think we're on TLS 1.3 right now, so it's still an HTTPS connection. So should come over 443, which means it's going to probably blend in a little bit more. Invoke expression. Invoke web request to this GitHub. It's going to grab this maldoc.ps1. That is a PowerShell document. Use basic parsing macro code. So this is the code for the macro. Open a path for the output. It's going to write a script and close it, and then ping Google. That's Google's DNS, or Google's is that Google 8.8.8.8? I want to say that's Google. Who is oop. I minimized my screen. Oh, I'm borking everything up. All right. Let's do a quick who is. I'm pretty sure that's Google. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take this because some of these who is likes to show you your own IP address, and I want to make sure it's not gonna do that first. 8.8.8.8. Just getting a little distracted here. Yeah, it's Google. So we can see it's Google right here. Who is great website, by the way, for figuring out who owns an IP address, where it is in the country or in the world. And Justin is confirming that it is Google. All right. So now, what do they want us to do now? Let's see. We went through all this information, explained what was what. So they want us to run test number 1 and check the prerequisite to make sure we have everything. Definitely a good idea. Test numbers 1 and check prereq. Singular check prereq. All right, you can see that we do have the prerequisites met right here, telling us that we have everything we need to do this test if we want to do it. Let's go ahead and check to see if we have everything that we need for the second test, which we don't. We don't have Word. We don't have Microsoft Word installed, so if we wanted to run this second test, we would go ahead and install Microsoft Word so that it can be used for this test. But let's keep moving and see what they want us to do. Detecting the atomic. Okay, so we have Sysmon. Sysmon's a great tool. Sysmon is a verbose logging tool that you can put on endpoints, and then you can use different collectors to go ahead and collect Sysmon logs for parsing. They're great to have. I love Sysmon. Put it on anything, put it on everything. And so they want us to go ahead and clear the Sysmon event log. So let's do that. Let us go and clear it. Go to event viewer first. Slowly. There we go. And the Sysmon logs are in Applications and Services, Microsoft Windows Sysmon Operational. So Applications and Services. Go ahead. If it wants to. It's thinking about it. Slowly but surely. There it is. Microsoft Windows. All the way down. It's in alphabetical order. Sysmon Operational. Here are our logs. And we're going to go ahead and clear them. See, clear log right here. We can sleep and clear it. Sure. It goes into our documents here. And now we have no Sysmon logs. So from here, I'm going to assume that it wants us to go ahead and run that test. Yep. Let's go ahead and run that Atomic Red Team test and see what kind of logs we get. And it's done running the test. Let's go look at our logs. We're going to have to hit a refresh first. And we got a few different logs. Not a whole lot, but it's also not doing a lot. So, is there any way that I can make this window itself bigger? Probably not, honestly. We can see, what do we have going on here? A network connection over the TCP protocol. Coming from ourselves, because we're running it on our own machine. We can see here that a file is created. And it is created. We saw the commands earlier, so we know where it's going. Using the PowerShell process. If I can get it to scroll over here for me, it's not wanting to. So PowerShell creates a document in the temp folder in our app data for phishing attachment.xlsm. Sorry. And then we have a few more logs. We can go ahead and look through those, see what we have. We have a DLL being created. We have a process being spawned. Okay. See, what do we have here? So I'm just trying to read it to explain what's going on here. It's just making some temp files, making some... Yeah, it's all it's really doing is making some temp files. It looks to be a continuation of the same process, because it's using the same command line. This is probably all getting pulled from their GitHub. We go down here, this should be the beginning of it, right? Yeah, so... Go ahead here, queries for Atomic Red Team. Grabs our host name. Creates a process figuring out who they are, and we are admin right now. And then we have PowerShell running those commands we saw earlier when we looked at what the command was going to do for Atomic Red Team. Cool. So, here we go. They're breaking it down some more. You can see the time, the process ID that created or did whatever was happening. This is in the friendly view. The command line of whatever happens, whatever directory it was launching from. And then the parent process image, which is PowerShell, and then the parent process command line, which is execution policy bypass, which you'll see that in a lot of either super user behavior or attacks. Now, how would we go ahead and... Well, first off, let's go ahead and clean up our artifacts. Always put your toys away when you're done playing. Grab that. Go ahead and clean it up. Should be done. Done cleaning up. It's pretty quick. How would we make detections on this? Now, if I were making detections on this, I would go ahead and think of a few different things that are happening. Let's break down what happens when this command runs, right? Okay. We have PowerShell calling out to GitHub. That's a red flag. We'd probably want to flag on that. You don't usually see PowerShell calling out to GitHub in this specific instance, right? Oh, you know what? The files are already here. The files are on our local host. I lied. So the files are on our local host. They're just, I guess they're just moving them, really. Because I'm reading the command line here and grabs it from our local host. But either way, it's calling for a macro-enabled file, and it's putting it in our temp directory. One, you should be probably having detections on macro-enabled files. You don't need those. PowerShell, having detections on PowerShell, you don't need to flag every instance of PowerShell. PowerShell does do a lot, but definitely when it's invoking web requests like that, that's a little odd. Yeah, it's not common for this command to run from a script behind the scenes. Absolutely. And then we could replace this local host with a malicious domain as they specify. And then malicious payload downloaded and saved to our system. We can include its name. I would just include personally anything that has a macro enabled extension like XLSM because you don't need those in your environment. And again, you might have legitimate reasons, and that's where you would make detection exceptions. Would specify that, hey, detect every macro-enabled file except for Bob's macro.xlsm. Okay. And then we have an example of a Sigma rule here. Sigma rules are very, very specific because they are based on Yara, which is a different type of language. And we have the title, the ID of the Sigma rule, detects the usage of invoke web request, download phishing attachment.xlsm. You have your author, category of what it is. This is a process creation detection on Windows. Checking the sysmon logs. Command line, and it contains invoke web request, and then that domain, the malicious domain, which is our local host in this instance. And then file creation. Anytime you find a file creation containing that phishing attachment, it's getting specific that it wants to find. It wants to find that invoke web request, going to that domain, and it also wants to find creation of that file. Okay, and it will flag on either of those. False positive, legitimate administration activity you may use invoke web request. Not likely. Sometimes it's very rare. And then legitimate Excel files may be created with similar names. Yes, but again, as I've said, and I will say until I'm blue into the face, you don't really need macro-enabled files in your environment. Now that Glitch has shown us his intentions, let's continue to work and run an emulation for ransomware. Your task will identify the correct atomic test to run that will take advantage of a command and scripting interpreter, conduct the test, and extract valuable artifacts that would be used to craft a detection rule. What was the flag found? Okay, so I might have to run that command again because we already did clean up. What was the flag found in that .text file that is found in the same directory as the phishing attachment artifact? Let's go back here. I doubt that the artifact is still there because it removes it, so let's just run this again. And then we'll go to our temp directory and find our... Sorry. Make sure it's in that temp directory. I kind of forgot, actually. Yeah, it's in our temp directory. Okay. So, users, administrators. App data. Local. Temp. And here's our .text. We can go ahead and read what that is. That's our flag. We got a flag for the first question. Awesome. Go ahead and take a second to read chat. I want to be like Glitch and leave my tools all over the system. Or include false positive explanations in the rule. Yeah, absolutely. If you see, that's a great point, Haircut Fish. If you're making a rule and you include false positives, that's going to help when someone is seeing a detection and they're like, oh, someone says this is legitimate, though. And you look at the rule and you see, oh, okay, that's where I would see that this specific file is allowed. What attack technique ID would be our point of interest? Well, they're telling us we want to see command and scripting interpreter. So let's go over here and let's look for command and scripting interpreter. There's quite a few things here. So we can do a search and scripting interpreter. We got the technique ID here. T1623. 1623. Probably wants a capital T. What? Pardon me? Ah, there's another one here. 1059. Just keep reading and you'll see it. There's a lot of different attack techniques. And by the way, if you want to learn how to use MITRE ATT&CK more usefully, look into Black Hills Information Security. They have a sister company called Anti-Siphon. There's a pay what you can course, so you can pay $0 and take it. It's called Getting Started with MITRE, or what is it? Getting Started with Black Hills Security and MITRE ATT&CK, where John Strand goes through and shows you how to use MITRE ATT&CK in its full use. What attack sub-technique focuses on Windows command shell? So we can see here, load more results. We have JavaScript, PowerShell. Oh, we have a lot of results. Windows command shell right here. 003. So our sub command, or our sub technique is 003. So they're gonna want that. P1059003. That's our sub technique. Cool. What is the name of the attack to be simulated? So let's go back over. They want us to figure out the name, so we're gonna have to find that information again, like we did earlier. All right. So we know what control we want to test because we went in MITRE and looked it up. T1059.003. A lot of information that just came out. I don't know which one they want us to use. See if any of these have anything that says, hey, this is from Try Hack Me. Nothing here. Attack number 4. We can see that this is... Oh, here we go. This looks... yeah. Start WordPad. Wareville ransomware. So Wareville is a place in this story. There's not a lot of information in here that would have led you to that, but thankfully we've been doing this every day, so Wareville. They want us to do the simulate Blackbyte ransomware print bobbing. I'm not seeing anything in this that we read that would have told us the information for this, but I see the Wareville. So, what is the name of the file used in this test? We have this Wareville ransomware. I'll go ahead and delete that backslash. And I'm going to have to delete the white space. Go ahead and submit that. And what is the flag found? So now we got to run it. So we're going to do the same thing. Invoke atomic test. If you remember earlier how we did this, you just pick the test number. And we were running test number 4. Gonna go ahead and run that. We'll save this as output like that, and it's done. What do we got? We got a PDF. Go ahead and launch it and see what we're working with here. We can zoom in a little bit. Glitch is working on testing the security posture before SOCMIS is here. I will run as many tests and ensure we are all safe and uncover all threats before they hit us. Flag. We got a flag. And that is that for day 4. And then we can look more at this Atomic Red team if we wanted to. If that interested you, I definitely would recommend looking at Atomic Red team and understand how to use it, because it is nice for testing your security controls. It may not be as nice as, say, having a pen test to test your security controls, but it is definitely nice for just basic control testing. So let's see if we have any questions. Professional. Oh, the pain's here. What's going on? The pain? Remember where the technique needs to come from. It says it in that sentence. Yep. Here to see if the struggle with the name of the script being run that I did. You showed details brief. We got Jesse in chat. What's going on, Jesse? We just finished it. Payne saying that he brute forced it. Yeah, I would have had to brute force it too, but I saw the Wareville one. I saw the Wareville and I was like, okay, that's probably it, because we've been doing this now for 4 days, and Wareville is the name of the town. It's the only thing that led me there. We've still got a few minutes, but we wrapped that room up pretty fast. It seemed to be a shorter room today. I would love to answer some questions if y'all have them. If not, we can probably wrap up early. Go cook some dinner. I know it's 5 o'clock, at least here in the Eastern time zone. We got Jose Alfredo. What's going on? Welcome. I haven't watched the video myself yet, but some people were talking about today's video not being the best. And I do see, I heard some complaints about maybe there not being enough information in the room itself. I agree. I really think that if I didn't catch the Wareville thing, then I probably would have run into an issue where I had to go through and try every test name to figure out which one it is. Oh, that makes sense, Dan. That's actually, I didn't think about that. The key was looking for linking towards ransomware. Yeah, but they were wanting to check their ransomware controls. So, when we saw the test names, Blackbyte is a ransomware variant. Okay. Alright, that makes sense. I didn't draw that connection, but that's a really good point. That's a really good point. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any questions. I'm not gonna sit here and waste everybody's time. We got the room done for today. I hope it was a nice, simple walkthrough. Couple good tools to think about. Atomic Red Team, Sysmon. I know it wasn't really the focus of today's efforts, but Sysmon is a great tool. There are plenty of resources out there for it. And then Sigma and Yara rules, which you should definitely look up as well and research those. I know TryHackMe has a few different rooms about it. Yara, you just type it in. Yeah, Yara rules. Sigma, of course, is going to be the same. Yep. They are very, very useful to know, and I'm sure they even have Sysmon rooms in here. I know the main focus of today was supposed to be Red Canary, but Red Canary really is just a tool used to test these different things. Are your logs picking things up? Are your rules reacting to the things, you know? And of course, you do have this red team room, and I'm probably going to walk through this at some point. And then we have Dan dropping the links, so anybody who comes and watches this afterwards can come and click on them. Thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you for tuning in. I very, very much appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, I will be back tomorrow and for the rest of the days of Advent Cyber. And then normal walkthroughs on Mondays at 5.